What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a bunch of new cards from OP06. I told you we saw it in both the original, I suppose, reveal from the distribution website and the official reveal over on the Japanese website that OP06 would see the debut of Germa 66. Well, it has, ladies and gentlemen, and this looks awesome. I am delighted, I am a fan, and I think a lot of people are going to be fans here as well. So let's start off with the new leader. We've got ourselves Vinsmoke Reiju. As a side note, did the translations myself, and some of these weren't that simple, so I'm very proud of myself for doing so, but I've checked with a lovely Orange Samurai D who's checked with Hibiki OPCG, so I think we're good. So, starting off then, we've got Vinsmoke Reiju. What are we looking at here? Well, we've got a 5,000 power, 4 life, dual colour, blue and purple leader. Nice. Of course, when we look at leaders, one of the first things we need to do, as far as I'm concerned, is go and look if that colour combination has come up before, if we've seen a blue and purple leader, because if it's a brand new colour combination like we sometimes see, that opens up deck building possibilities we've never seen before. That is not the case here. We had it in OP01 twice. We had both Kaido and Crocodile from OP01 that are dual colour blue and purple leaders, so we don't need blue and purple as a leader colour combination. That's not to say we don't want it, that's not to say this can't be a cool leader, but in terms of how unique it is, not even a little bit. We literally had 2 of them in the first set. Although both of them have seen a little bit of play here and there, so maybe that could be quite good. Anyway, what have we got in terms of a skill? On your turn, once per turn, when one of your Don cards on the field is returned to your Don deck, draw a card. And this actually reminds me quite a lot of Crocodile, not the one I just showed you, the more recent Crocodile, the purple and yellow from OP04, which is exactly the same, except it's add a Don from your Don deck as active. And it's on your turn, not on your opponent's turn. So it's a similar kind of thing, reminiscent of Crocodile, but very different. And the goal here basically is extra draw power, and let us face it, right? Purple returns Don to their Don deck. That's one of the things that Purple does the most. And you're going to see as we go through the rest of these cards, that is very much going to be a theme, having less Don on the field than your opponent. So here, you return your Don, but then you also get to draw a card at the same time, and draw is good. One Piece is not a card game that has a huge amount of draw. This could be a very, very good leader. Now, as we go through them, we've got a whole bunch of others, including, well, let's go counting, shall we? Let's start with Vinsmoke Ichiji. And what we've got here is a 7-cost, 7,000 power character, quite big. Purple, they're all purple as a spoiler here. Essentially, the Vinsmoke part is purple, and then the blue is you bringing in something else you want to from another colour. And we've got, like I say, 7 cost, 7,000 power. On play, if you have less Don on your field than your opponent, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn, and this character gains Rush. Yes. 7,000 power Rusher? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. This is something that I can absolutely get behind. And as a fun little side note, we've seen Rush in purple. We've not seen much Rush in purple. You know, we've seen things like the Kaido from the starter deck, but that's Don -5, which is a little bit awkward. You do get to KO a 6-cost character. And then, you know, the Monkey D. Luffy from OP03 that's Don -1, and trash a character of a cost of 5 from your hand to gain Rush. This is far simpler. This is just, if you've got less Don than your opponent, you gain Rush, and you get to minus 2,000 power one of your opponent's characters, which, you know, the minus 2,000 is very, very good here. Plus, you got then a 7,000 power Rusher, which I think is pretty gosh darn good. I like this card. Although, do bear in mind, it's a 7-cost character that activates if you've got less Don on your field than your opponent. So obviously this is going to be one of those, your opponent's going to need at least 8 Don for you to pull this off. Like, the minimum here is going to be you've got 7 Don, and then you play this as a 7 cost card. Just bear that in mind, but generally speaking, big character, got Don, sounds good to me. If we continue counting, we've got Vinsmoke Niji. For those of you that haven't got there yet, and I'm assuming the vast majority of you have, obviously Ichi is 1 in Japanese, Ni in 2, etc. So Sanji, San is 3, Sanji is the 3rd one. Yay! There's no new Sanji card today, I'm sorry. To Vinsmoke Niji then, we've got 5 cost, 6,000 power, and on play, if you have less Don on your field than your opponent, told you it was going to be a little bit of a rule here, choose one of the following. Either KO one of your opponent's characters that cost 2 or less, or return one of your opponent's characters that cost 4 or less to their hand. So essentially you got a little bit of removal here. If you go after a really small character, you get to KO them, yay. If you go after a slightly larger character, it's only returning it to your opponent's hand. And you'll notice here all the way along, we've got if you've got less Don than your opponent. And then we've got a leader that draws a card when you put a Don back to your deck. And you need to make sure you're building this deck in that way. It needs to be a case of building your deck to allow for the fact that you're shuffling cards back and having less Don than your opponent. That's the only way this is going to work. But these are some powerful effects, ladies and gentlemen. A 7,000 power character with Rush that minuses 2,000 to one of your opponent's characters. A character that can KO a 2 cost or bump a 4 cost. Yes, this sounds good to me. Now we got Vinsmoke Yonji here. We've got ourselves a 4 cost, 5,000 power. And what we can do here is, if you have less Don on your field than your opponent, extra 1,000 power plus blocker. Yes. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Now, I will say, if you look at the way the card is set out, it's clearly, if you've got less Don on your field than your opponent, you get 1,000 power. And then on a separate line, you've got blocker. So blocker here doesn't exist if you've got less Don than your opponent. This character always has blocker. But then you've also got the extra 1,000 power just as a standard thing if you've got less than your opponent. And here's the thing, right? Generic vanilla characters have 2,000 more power than their cost, counter plus 1,000. So a vanilla generic character would have 4 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000. If you've got less Don on your field than your opponent, then you've got 4 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000. And you've got blocker at the same time. This, ladies and gentlemen, is very, 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 very good. I like this. I'm a fan. Go team. And you'll notice we've got a lot of different stuff going on here. We've got the big one with Rush. We've got the blocker. We've got the one that can take out your opponent's characters. We've got the draw power on the leader. And then we've got one super rare with which we can finish off here. Vinsmoke Reiju. 4 cost, 5,000 power. If you have less Don on your field than your opponent, and 5 or fewer cards in hand, draw 2 cards. I like this a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I like this a lot. Because bearing in mind, you've already got draw power with your leader. Now you've got extra draw power coming in here. Yes. I love this. And draw 2 on play. Like, this means you're going to be drawing 3 cards in the turn. 1 from your leader, 2 from this. And drawing 3 is really very, very nice. Now, one thing to note about all of these cards, there is nothing actually that we've seen in this set of reveals which is to do with the Vinsmoke family or with Germa 66. As a side note, all of these cards have 2 traits, Vinsmoke family and Germa 66. Which makes perfect sense. Again, if you've read the manga or seen the anime, you'll know. If not, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but those 2 traits go together very, very well indeed. But we haven't seen anything so far which really makes you play them all together. They are pretty good purple cards, and you've got a leader that works when you shuffle a Don back, And you've got a bunch of characters that work when you've got less Don on your field than your opponent, but bearing in mind purple decks are often going to have less Don. We've not seen a card yet which ties these all together. However, we're clearly going to. Like, there's going to be a Nami equivalent for Germa 66. Or Vinsmoke Family, whereby it's a 1-cost card that lets you search one out. We've seen it for like everything so far. We're going to get it for these traits as well. Or there's going to be something else that specifically ties to them. For the moment, they're just good cards that activate when you've got less Don than your opponent, which could basically fit into any purple deck. But in time, I am sure we're going to see other cards from the set which turn them around very, very nicely. So that's what we got, ladies and gentlemen, but now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these. Tell me if you think they're good. Tell me if you're excited for this brand new archetype. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.